guys, it's Ellen. Today I want to do my June wrap-up. I actually ended up reading a lot of graphic novels this month, not as many books as I thought, but I think that I did pretty well with the books that I was planning on reading going into that challenge that was happening during the month. I didn't actually follow the challenge as it was just a week long. I just sort of took the challenges and used them throughout the month to kind of guide my TBR. So let's get into what I read. So as I mentioned, I read a lot of graphic novels this month because I was just sort of drawn to them, and I would go to the library and pick up a couple volumes. First up, I read Morning Glories volumes 1, 2, and 3. I guess it's actually 1, 2, and 3. And these are really interesting. I actually found I liked the first one probably the best because it had, so far, because I'm going to continue on with the series, but I found that it had the most intrigue to it. It was very mysterious, and I was unsure of what was going on, but it was very intriguing, and I just really wanted to know more about what was happening. But I found that as the series went on, more questions were raised than were answered, and so I just got more and more confused, which I'm still very interested in seeing what's going to happen, but I'm also just very confused about what is going on in this. It's about a school where these kids all go, and they all have the same birthday, and they all are, it seems like they're being trained or tested for some sort of ability, and it's very unclear, so I can't give you more of a synopsis than that, but it's interesting. I want to see what happens, but it's also very confusing. Next up for graphic novels, I read Locke and Key Volume 1. I really liked this one. I didn't like it as much as Morning Glories, as I mentioned in my TBR, because I'd actually already read this by the time I was filming my TBR, but it's interesting. I want to know what happens. I'm hoping it's not like Morning Glories, where it gets more confusing as you go along and read, because I was already kind of confused. But this one was more about ghosts and sort of supernatural entities and all these keys that fit in different locks in this house, and sort of do cool things. So it has a different premise to it, and I am interested in continuing on with this series. I don't know if I'll do it right away, but yeah, this could be a cool Halloween read maybe. Then I read the next volume in Sandman by Neil Gaiman. This is volume 5, called A Game of You. I didn't like this volume. I'd say this is probably my least favorite volume of all the ones I've read so far, and I actually have read the first 5. I've also read the 12th, because this is the only one my library had. Long story. So yeah, this was really weird. I mean, I know all of these are quite strange. They're very dark, but I felt like this one didn't really have anything to do with the rest of the plot. Most of the installments in this series are kind of connected in some way. They have something to do with each other. You can see how the storyline is sort of progressing. You learn more about the Sandman and his siblings and stuff like that. But this one was really quite a separate thing, and I can't say that I loved it. I gave it a 2.5 out of 5, I think. Yeah, it was just really very okay. I didn't love it. So getting into the novels that I read this month, the first one that I finished is The Rhythm of Memory. This is by Alyson Richman. What I was going for with this one was I wanted to read something that had been on my shelf for over a year. This one's been almost exactly a year on my shelf, and so I figured it was time to read it. I was excited when I first got it. It's sort of a summary read, and so I was looking forward to reading this. I didn't find it to be that great, to be honest. It's something that I did like, that there was something that I had never read about before. This takes place in 2 different locations and also a couple different time periods. It takes place in Sweden and also in Chile. It has to do with the Chilean coup that happened historically, and there are some very sad elements to this because it is during a wartime, and it's also a war that I didn't know pretty much anything about. So that was really interesting to read about. The poet Pablo Neruda is a character in this book, which I thought was really cool. But my main complaint is that it was extremely, extremely slow. And at the end, I didn't put it down and say, wow, I was really moved by that. I put it down and I was like, okay, nothing really happened in the book with the characters. So yeah, it says on here that this author also wrote The Lost Wife, and I have that book, and I was excited to read it, but now I'm a little bit hesitant because hopefully it won't be as slow burning and, I hate to say, a little bit boring as this book was. I don't know. I still am going to give it a try because I own it, and The writing was quite beautiful. There were times where it just was well written, but overall, it just didn't need to be this long. It doesn't even look that long, but it's just, how many pages was it? It was 391 pages, and like the font is really like pretty small, and I don't know, maybe I've been reading a lot of YA lately, and so reading this adult book was just sort of a weird, like going back to adult books, I felt a little bit like it was too slow for me, but I don't know, I think I gave it a 3 out of 5 because there were some good elements in here, but overall, I didn't enjoy the read. After reading that book, I wanted to read something that I knew was going to be fast-paced and really interesting and that was going to keep my attention, so I picked up Scarlet by Marissa Meyer and flew through this one. This one it was continuing on in a series that I had started and not yet finished, and so this is obviously the second book in the Lunar Chronicles, and I read Cinder last month, so I figured Scarlet was a good way to continue on, and I'm very much looking forward to Cress, which I already kind of have, you know, on top of my pile, ready to go. This one was really good. I have to say I like Cinder better. I just think I like the main character, Cinder, better than I like Scarlet. I think that Cinder is a stronger, more, like, self-aware character. Also just a little bit more interesting. I don't know, the storyline was really cool. It got a little weird with some of like the action scenes that happened here. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't love this one as much as I love Cinder, but I think I gave it either 4.5 or a 5 out of 5, just because it's like, these books are fantastic. Like, just because I'm saying I don't love this as much as Cinder doesn't mean I didn't absolutely love this, because I did. It's awesome. It's just a really cool series. If you haven't picked up the series, you should definitely do it and give it a try, because it's great. For me, it was a really good, like, sitting out in the sun, kind of just flying through it kind of read. It was very interesting and kept me on the edge of my seat. This next book I saw at a library book sale, and I wanted to pick it up because I've seen a lot of YouTubers talking about it, and it's just like a little quick read. It's Weird Things Customers Say in Bookstores by Jen Campbell. And of course I just flew through this in one sitting because it's just like little quotes and funny illustrations and stuff. And so, yeah, this one I gave, I think, a 4 out of 5, because I mean, some of these are hits and some are misses. On the cover here it says, "Do you have any books by Jane Eyre?" It's just like silly things that people say, and you're just like, how could you think that? This part that made me sad in this was there was a whole section of like parents talking to their children about how they shouldn't be reading books, how it's like silly that they're interested in books, and that just made me sad. Like, let's encourage kids to like books, can we? So this is funny, interesting, I don't know, 4 out of 5. Next, I decided to read Paper Towns by John Green. This book is being turned into a movie very soon, and so I figured now is a great time to read it. It also seems like a very summary type read. It wasn't quite as what I thought it was going to be. One of the main complaints that I've heard about John Green is that he tends to write a lot of manic pixie dream girls. I haven't read Looking for Alaska yet, but I have heard that that has that element, that character element in it. And I am not really a fan of that because I don't find it very realistic. Like, the character in here, Margot Roth Spiegelman, in my opinion, is like not even really a person. Like, she's more of a caricature. She's not like anybody I know, and not in like a good way, like, oh, she's unique. She's just not realistic. I liked some elements of this. I like to put in labels when there's a quote or something like that that I find interesting, I want to go back to. It really made me think. So there were a couple moments in there where I was really enjoying the read, but overall it wasn't profoundly moving, like this quote says. I don't find that it was. It was more of like this main character guy discovering himself without this girl in his life, and what she means to him, and how he can be independent, sort of. It was okay. It was good. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars because there were some parts in here that I liked. Some parts that I just really wasn't that into, but 4 out of 5 stars overall. I just realized that I kind of being kind of negative about a lot of the books, but I don't think this is my best reading month overall because I just didn't love a lot of the books that I read, which is not really something that often happens to me. I usually read books that I really love, so I could feel myself coming into a bit of a reading slump, and that really bummed me out. So I picked up a couple more graphic novels. These graphic novels were in my TBR. They're for a book that is a little bit out of my comfort zone. And so I picked up Boxers and Saints by Luen Yang. This is by the same author who wrote American Born Chinese, which I also read and thought was okay. I liked learning from about a different perspective that I had not read from before. This sort of offered a similar experience, reading from a different perspective. This one is about the Boxer Rebellion, which I had never read about, so that was really interesting. This one definitely had a lot more magical realism, sort of fantastical elements to it, sort of spiritual almost, and I liked that part of it, actually. I didn't like, I'm not going to give anything away, but I didn't love the ending of either of these books. It's a wartime book, so you can expect them to be sort of sad and not so uplifting, but I was just a little let down, I think. I think I gave both of these 3.5 out of 5 stars. I did like them more than I liked American Born Chinese, but I can't say they're my favorite books that I've read in a year or even in this month. Yeah, I think that if you're interested in learning a little bit more about history, some different, time periods, this will be interesting to pick up. And I like that it's like the same story basically, but from 2 different perspectives. This one female character and this male character, and I really think that added to this. Like, I don't think this would have been as great as a standalone, and this one definitely wouldn't have made any sense as a standalone, but together they sort of encapsulated this full perspective, and that was enjoyable. So 3.5 out of 5 stars for both of these. Lastly is a book that I'm actually not quite finished with, but I'm probably going to finish it as soon as I'm done filming this video. This one got me out of my reading slump, and it's Magonia by Maria Dahvana Headley, I'm not sure which, and this one is going to fulfill the reading a book for my latest haul, and so I bought this one in May, I believe. Yeah, I bought this in May, so it's a pretty recent book. It's really not at all what I was expecting, but as you can see from all of my sticky notes here thus far, I am liking it a lot. Like, it's not something that I thought I would like. I do really enjoy magical realism, which is a big part of this book, but it's a little bit more fantastical. The sort of fantasy elements are much more prominent in this book than I thought they were going to be, and it is really interesting and definitely keeping my attention, so that's good. I don't want to give this one a full star rating yet because I haven't finished. I have about 50 pages left, but I think that it's gonna be a 4.5 out of 5 star book. That's what I'm just feeling right now. So if it like amazes me at the end, I'll probably give it 4.5 stars, and if it stays how it's going and like still really good, I think I'll give it 4 stars. So that's how I feel about this one. I think if you're interested in magical realism, especially in books that have that strong fantastical element to them, you'll really enjoy this. There's also so many different points where it's very like philosophical, which I love. So yeah, if you're interested, you should definitely pick this one up. Okay, that is it for my June wrap up. I hope you guys had a great reading month. Let me know what you guys have read. If you've read any of these books, let me know what you thought of them in the comments below. I'll be back soon to do my July TBR. Hopefully in the month of July I'll be reading some books that really blow me away, because this month I read a lot of average to pretty good books, but I think next month I really want to step it up and read some amazing books. That's really what I'm in the mood for. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in my next one. Bye!